Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you. Hey everyone, Joshua Hanlon here at BrickFair Virginia 2023, and today we're taking a look at another incredible version of New Hashima City. For many of our viewers, you might have seen a much larger version of this collab at Brick World Chicago this year. If you haven't checked out that video, we'll make sure to link to that in the description below because it was incredible. We spent 2.5 hours going through the full massive layout, but they brought a new version here to the show. So I've got one of the builders here. If you want to introduce yourself and give us an overview of what we've got.
So hi there, guys. My name is Michael. I am one of the New Hashima coordinators, along with Stefan Formentano, Simon Liu, and many, many others that I'll be getting to in a couple minutes. So basically, the concept of this is that after we went through sectors 2, 4, 6, and 8, and we had, we're riding the high of Brick World, we wanted to talk about the extended New Hashima universe, really. So we were thinking about, future collabs, how we can break this down, reconfigure it, add new things to it, and just keep the energy going for as long as we can until we feel it's been completed. Stefan couldn't be here with us, unfortunately. He can only do 1 or 2 cons a year, so I took the reins on coordinating and designing the layout for the display. So the concept for this one is Sector 10, the arcology. Arcology is an architectural word, which means a building that is a self-contained city. They're typically massive in scale. Movies like Judge Dredd have had arcologies in the past, and they're usually super towers. So, Brick World was our largest by footprint, by far, by number of collaborators. It's by most metrics the largest. I knew that we weren't going to be able to beat that for BrickFair because of the time, the turnaround. Not everyone could be here, so what we went for is the tallest, and we achieved it. It currently tops out at 14 feet 10 inches tall, where in Brick World Chicago it was, I believe, 13 feet 1. So
very impressive. You were able to beat even just the height of that there.
Yeah, and so the plan for this came about where we were we don't want to do water anymore. We want to think about a utopia in the desert. So we built this big 3x3 footprint tower and started just stacking cubes. We had planning documents, we had spreadsheets, we had talks in the Discord about how to arrange these things. There's about maybe a little less than half of old contributors to this, with more than half being brand new cubes between the end of June and the beginning of August. In fact, I think before the convention was started, we had a final count of 34 cubes in the display. By the time we got here, there was 48. So
a lot of last-minute additions.
Oh yeah, there was 2 last-minute additions on towers and 11 new additions on cubes. So it looked like we weren't going to make it for a little bit of the max out on the height, but we did it, and we're all pretty proud of that. So I guess I'll just kind of take you through each side of this, going counterclockwise. So from bottom to top, when planning the structure, we talked about freight and people get in through a crossroads of freight, Blake's Bot Mart and his industrial cubes, as well as Simon's Highway. Simon, complete beast, built a brand new highway and road system at the bottom of this tower for this display. As you move up through the towers, you have kind of the skeezier area. You have the shops, the garages, the corner markets. You have on the second level or the third level here, you have a chicken shop. You got some speeders and spinners, and we have this lovely double height cube by one of our newer members, Luke Renobricks. It's got just a cool formal quality to it that I don't think was truly programmatic architecturally, but it's just really compelling visually. One thing that's a gorgeous addition is this dentist office. I believe Kevin is his name, Practically Perfect, and he made this incredible functioning sign. Probably one of the craziest feats of engineering that we've seen in this collab so far. It is a rotten tooth getting drilled in. And if that doesn't say, wow, this dentist is so safe and cool, I would love to go here and not be scared, I don't know what does. You do a 2-for-1 special. You come in with 32 teeth, you leave with 33.
I love that. Kevin has done some incredible builds with movement over the years. We featured a lot of his work, and this is excellent.
Yeah, the coolest part is how he even had this motor that just completely disconnects if it gets burnt out. So it's just seeing the work in progresses for this go up is so incredible. As we move up the top here, we have a couple more cubes. We have an empty cube with this gorgeous drop ship by our collaborator Zach Bean, and a repeat cube from like last year. He hasn't had this in a while. Like him and another friend chopped it up and like rebuilt it anew. Logan Petrin and Aiden Burke. Up on top here, we also have a brand new tower from two of our collaborators, Riley Moreau and Andrew Miller. They did, again, like one of our favorite things to do, Duplo. Adding Duplo where it doesn't need to be. Making big towers out of Duplo with crazy panelization. And so where people come up to you, they're like, where's that part from? In the middle of it, so we had like, 1, 2, 3, 4. We had like 7 towers altogether. And like we'll get to how those all came together in the end, like how they all fit together pretty like haphazardly at first, but it all worked out in the end. But over the top here, if you can reach up that high, we have like the way that all this is lit is through a central shaft that just drops all the wiring down through it and is like the literal like service core of the entire building. Like it is truly an arcology, a self-contained structure. So we're going to move back around to the other side. And I'm going to hand it off to Simon Liu real quick for a talk about his Crossroads with Blake.
Hi, I missed the intro. What am I supposed to talk about?
We're talking about the Crossroads and the towers.
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Simon. I was one of the main coordinators from Chicago, and I did Bricks in the Six in Toronto basically last weekend. So I didn't really want to coordinate a lot. So Mike kind of just told me, just do 6 cubes. And that's what I did. So I spent like the last weekend or so building the 6 cubes. It's the road infrastructure level. What was fun was I had some roads inside the docks in Chicago. So I had the road plates done, but I had to completely reclad it. Except that we decided, apparently over the weekend, that there was going to be a train running through it. So to make the train work, I had to actually raise everything up and basically start from scratch. So a lot of it's still a lot of gray because we kind of have in the world of New Hashima, there's a Psy Corporation, which is very gray. So it's both Simon and German Simon Mox and Psy Mox. We do very gray buildings. So we want to keep some of that gray infrastructure around. So that's why it's got kind of this cladding to it. It's got like the pipes, which was sort of the same aesthetic we did for the backing of the ships in the Chicago version. So it shows up again here. It's kind of funny that we brought in several of the panels that actually were used in Chicago, thinking, which one do you like? And we ended up reusing some of these components to add even more height because, as we said, we wanted to beat the record. So right now we're able to go to 15.4 to just get it feet to get even higher. So
very impressive.
Yes. So the road goes straight through it. You can't see it from this end. The other end you can kind of see like where it's open. It's kind of like decayed because this is like in the outskirts and more deserty area. So we're getting kind of back to the classic epoch where the original Cyber City started, where it like kind of inspired all of this. Yeah.
Building up from the rubble of the old world pretty much. And like Simon did a fantastic job with like capturing the aesthetic of like old like concrete infrastructure that sits at the base of like a super massive tower. Like, like 15 feet 10 is a fantastic like height, and we like it's like more than halfway up the ceiling. And like as you move around here, we kind of get towards the kind of redo of the old city from Brick Worlds. This corner here, I wanted to make sure that was like very prominent because unfortunately, like in a collab with 3 sides visible, one side will always be kind of hidden. So when planning this and reusing some of the cubes that we had in the past, I wanted to make sure that our one collaborator, George Hawes and Brian O'Leary, had like the front and center spot on the corner for like his magnificent dragon apartments. Like George did such a fantastic job on this. We talked about it a little bit towards the very end of the Brick World interview, but like now you can finally get some good close-ups. Like from bottom to top, it's like there was his old monorail station, which, the idea is like the old city was maybe like a worker tenement housing for them to go and build the arcology, but sit on the outskirts of the town. And so we had like a monorail there that maybe was like demolished because no one lives there anymore and it's just a slum. As you move through it, this like lovely sub-level of here that was completely hidden before is like this amazing like oriental rug shop. And then underneath that is like some New York, kind of like New York style tenement housing. And then like if we go back to the arcology too, like the second level of this side, one of the great challenges and like one of the most fun things was like assembling these on site and seeing like where everybody's like cubes fit. So we have like 3 clubs right next to each other on this corner between like Riley's like Bionicle Mask Club, Noah's like high flying, really fancy ritzy club, and then around the corner is another one of Riley's clubs too. Then as you move up to it, we have the start of the base of Ben Brixton's contributions, which is like the Hex Homes and his super massive tower. So I'm going to hand it over to Ben right now, and he's going to tell you a little bit about that. And like Ben Latterson, here you are.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, I'm Ben Brixton. They call me Ben Latterson, as I've been known nowadays. So, like they were mentioning, we've got some of these cubes going around the clubs. Again, that yellow hexagonal structure. We've got apartment modules that get plugged in, high-end luxury living in Sector 10 here.
I love this technique here with the clear pieces.
Oh, thank you. So what we've got is a few lights running through, and the trans-clear synthetic tree is all trans-clear headlight bricks, just snotted around, pink in there. You got some nice click-it flowers as well to get some of those funkier flower shapes and that translucent. And like you'll see, there's some blue, red jewels stuck on there since it's a product of the click-it line. So you got some bedazzling in there. And going up, it's a triple tall cube, 2 stacks of those next to each other. Then we've got a heavier thing actually up there, a different portion of the tower, which is much more of a monolith side of cubes. But in this kind of city, it's a stack up of different areas, all sorts of buildings stuck on top of each other. So heavy on top of light, vice versa. It's great, just getting higher. And then you even got some towers starting to extend past that in different moments. So the tower started a little lower, go up to the top. So now all of a sudden, what was once the rooftop of a very tall tower is just a moment next to the other walkway. So you can kind of branch onto that tower easily and now use it as a plaza space, even as need be. We'll go back to the base of the tower here, and then I'm working on the way up. We've even got some nice vehicles flying around. Like we've got a sand blue drone here, designed by Luke, Blade Junkie. The design fabricated by Simon, then stolen by Luke, given to me as a gift. Back, Simon realizing it, and it's made its way all the way here. And so above that, then we start the base of this tower, which is now all the way up to 16'4", and it's just getting really up there. So
Very impressive.
yeah, we even got the addition of another satellite dish way up there at the top. It's for that nice 9G cell phone tower, bringing that really good radioactive tech. Just get it right to the heart of the home of the pedestrians.
So this is incredible here. So did your section end right here then?
Yeah, so we got a break from the yellow hex homes. A different contributor was able to create these 2 cubes, and then the tower starts again. And we get all the way up to 16'10" there at the top, so just really rising up, which is awesome. You get a great angle from that side, being able to really see it. The height just so close to the ceiling now, it's going up.
Fantastic.
So one thing I would also like to mention about this side before we move over to the next is that Joseph, our one contributor who was in the old city as well last at Brick World, he had a very unique cube that was double wide, where a lot of people did double height or like just single height cube. He did a double wide cube, so it allowed him to create some like pretty cool apartment complexes. When planning this, we had 2 fewer towers, and so I used that as an opportunity to put Joseph's cube as like the base of the tower spire, because he had some like apartment buildings where like the roofs of it extended past the cube. I thought it was interesting and wanted him to like showcase that as like the top of his tower. When he got here, we started setting up. I asked him to remove some of the overhang on the sides so we could like kind of fit more cubes behind his. And somebody came up and told him that, yeah, you're going to have towers going on top of yours. Wasn't me. However, I come back to him ripping off the tops of his towers, and I'm like, guess we have room for 2 more towers. So, big shout out to Joseph and Steve the Squid Grayson, who added that lovely ramen shop there in the corner. They, despite some confusing circumstances, made the best of it, and like just truly helped us reach this fantastic height of 17 feet 4 inches. So we're going to move around to the corner here, back to the worker tenement, the redo of the old city. So this is kind of like the face of the old city. It's mostly a redo of last time with a couple new additions. A lot of the stuff that was hidden before, past the stanchions and stuff, is kind of like now fully towards the public eye. One thing that I wanted to bring attention to is that our one friend Zach Bean created this beautiful red pagoda that before was in the water. We didn't know where it would fit on this one, and I came in on Friday morning to see them just like sticking this thing right on top of the Paradiso Hotel. It works. It's so fantastic. I really love it. Another new feature is if you get down close into this roadway here. So what we have here is like between Simon's new roadway that leads to the Arcology, where Jackson, Aggressively Canadian's cube used to be in Chicago. Our vision was like the worker tenement housing is here while they're building the Arcology. They have a metro, they have a monorail. They all move out when the project is done, and what happens? They just demolish it and replace it with a road. And I wanted to juxtapose that with like the empty space underneath my 3 cubes here with some of these weird plates that I found in like a bargain bin at like a yard sale. It's these old like road plates from like airport sets and old town maker sets, and they're just like this fantastic like look of like, wow, like you can really make it look like the desert is like consuming the old city and just like kind of burying the old stuff. So what we wanted to do there is like take the various kiosks and like shacks and cars and minifigures that people have made and just make like a covered bazaar in the base of the city. Like the very lowest of the low section of the city is now just like an informal settlement, a bazaar, a tent city, what have you. And when we go around to the last side, you can kind of see that a little more in detail as well. So we're going to move around to this corner here, another one, Ryan Keith, one of my collaborators for the old city. And now again, with this side, you can see like inside of the cubes that were again invisible for a little bit. And I want you guys to like get a look at this landscape here, because like this is another coordination, I wouldn't say nightmare, but like a coordination challenge, was to get all like the landscape to line up. We as you know, we have our base plate standard height, which was like base plate, brick, plate. Because of like the varying base plate heights and like the Arcology Towers cubes sitting at the same height as the base plates, we wanted to make sure that everything lined up without like overhanging and like knocking into each other on studs and stuff. So I envisioned this like desert landscape with like a seawall that's like been dried up. You have like various oases. Our one contributor, Peter, created this awesome seawall, and even like a place for Simon's like crane to go, as well as like a landing strip next to like the industrial sector of the Arcology. In the back here, we have like our tent city, like I said, our bazaar, our like our sails kind of overhanging and like covering over the people that live down there from the rain. Some cool stuff that you can see back here that wasn't really visible before is like we have, dueling food vendors down here between like a gyro stand next to Paradise Cafe with my kebab shop that I had in the last display. And if you want to get around to like this kind of like tighter corner of the Arcology, we have Zach Moe's cube from like California, where he created like the SciCube Corp manufactory. Unfortunately, in transit, some of his motors disconnected and broke and we couldn't fix them. So we like to imagine that like, this is one of those things too where like as this self-contained, like constantly growing metabolizing structure was built, the factory got decommissioned because they didn't need any more of it. So we wanted to eventually slap a permanently closed sign on it, but I think just having it like inert is like as good of a representative as possible. So, like this is that idea, like the constantly growing tower that's just like continually building itself up to this like astounding height of 17 feet 10 inches.
Truly an incredible feat.
Thank you. And then as we move up, we have a gorgeous aquarium cube from one of our collaborators, Riley Moreau. He did a fantastic job with pulling out like 3 cubes plus this new tower. Like just like the detail inside of his aquarium is so fun. Like he has these like crazy, like I think the Duplo fish, like all the coral elements and like these amazing like octopus stained glass windows from like our main bro, Eclipse Graphics Victor. And then as we move up to the very top of this tower now, we have 3 additions that like we so we have this tower right here and this tower right here are the 2 that were like able to be added because of the snafu with Joseph's cube. But our collaborator Peter made this NATO recruiting station in Carter's absence. Carter Baldwin being the one who like had all of the gray invading forces in Sector 8 in Brickworld. So he came in on Friday morning. He said on Friday morning that he'd have an extra cube for us by the middle of the day. 5:30 rolls around and he finally has us up. I'm like, I'm gonna be real with you, man. If you're not here in like 20 minutes, we're just putting stuff on without you. So he really hauled it over here and got it done. Got all of his lights working despite some issues, and we were able to stack up this sand green tower and like kind of add that height gradient a little bit. So I want to hand it over real quick to Taco Bricks Daniel. Talk a little bit about his sand green tower and like how we fit all these things together.
So yeah, as you guys know, I'm Taco Bricks, but I'm not Daniel to many of you guys here at BrickFair. And so, as you may remember from the last version of New Hashima, in Sector 2, Inner City, I had the Sand Green Tower, as well as the Orange Factory Cube, and the Nintendo Tower, and another small cube, the Inner City. And what's really nice about Sector 10 here is that it's not as it's still crowded, of course, like all Cyberpunk and New Hashima should be. Crowded, busy, and awesome. Whereas what's nice with Sector 10 here is that we have a lot more open area to view some of the towers that may have been missed in the last version of New Hashima, because everyone put in an incredible amount of detail and effort into each of the towers. So it's nice just to get a more up-and-close personal view of my Sand Green Tower, which I put a lot of work and effort into, whereas back in Chicago, it was more kind of hidden amongst the awesome chaos of Sector 2. And so everyone really pulled in like just these great cubes, these great towers that we had from the last city, and also some new ones too, as you saw with the NATO cube. And I'm really happy too that my tower is so prominent in this one. It's the third tallest tower. It doesn't beat Ben Brixton's, which is now at 17 feet and 10 inches, I believe. It just keeps getting taller and taller every time I look at it. It's insane. And I'm just happy to be a part of this again. It's a great build. So it's fantastic to be back with everyone and just keep going with the story and the hype train that is New Hashima.
Fantastic work. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so we only have like 2 more people that I think need to talk about their last contributions. So we're going to have Logan Petrin real quick and Tobias Whalen talk about their 2 cubes. I was very, very happy with how they go together, and like Logan was one of those collaborators that had like a last-minute contribution that we had to scramble to figure out a place for, but it worked out so well in the end. And there's something I wanted to say about it. Shoot, what was it? No, whatever. I'll hand it over to them real quick, and they can talk real quick about the aesthetics of their towers, their vision for it, and like how it all came together.
Perfect.
Great. What's up, guys? I'm Tobias. I did this tower on the left on the corner. It was also actually at Brickworld. I was not, unfortunately. I was one of the people that just handed it off to Mike to make that last leg of the journey. But it was on a corner in Old City as well. But here on Sector 10, the new revitalized version of the build for BrickFair Virginia. Yeah, it actually took a different orientation. So this white side over here is actually more prominent, as well as this kind of the sand red, I don't know, exhaust tube or some sort of external HVAC form.
Very unique color there.
Yeah, thank you. I actually wasn't expecting it to go with that salmon, and with that and the blue and the sand green, it all kind of came together in this muted palette. And it went perfectly as well with the palette of Logan and Aiden, who came in very last minute. I mean, within the last probably 4 or 5 days, this thing came together. Aiden came down from Toronto, met up with Logan in Manhattan, and they shuffled this together out of a suitcase. But I think it gets this fantastic this sort of alleyway condition that kind of made the Old City in the previous iteration of this. And I think a new view down into this implied central, pit through the I'll let this guy finish.
No, you're good.
All right, between the idea behind this was this 8 cube 3x3 with a hollow center for the core of the city, and I think being able to see through really implies that kind of hollow core that empties it out. And yeah, no, I was glad to see my contribution in person come together with the rest of the builders. It was great.
Excellent work. Glad you could make it out to this one.
And so, last but not least, probably one of the most important members of our collab, I'm going to tap in Blake Foster to talk about his 2 cubes and his train that really formed the foundation, and like with Simon was able to make this 18-foot tower possible. So Blake, come on and talk about it.
Hi, I'm Blake Foster. Yeah, I was part of the docks in Chicago, and at first it didn't even seem like we could possibly fit my stuff into this version of the collab, because it was really tightly coupled to the dock infrastructure. My major contributions, as Mike just said, were the train and my 2 cubes. Each had their own unique problem. The problem with the train was that it was just too big. It needed a modified arrangement of specialized cubes to make the turn. And in fact, actually at the interview at Chicago, I was very sleep deprived. I realized I gave you the wrong number for the clearance it requires. I said 12. It needs a 14 stud path to make the turns. And it's so long that we actually had to remove a card and make it fit on this table. One of them is sitting over there on the side. And so like getting a track loop in the scaled down version just didn't seem possible. And we wound up just running it straight through. And, I would have been okay with running it in a loop right across the way in the space section, but I thought it was cooler to have it in context here in the display. And so we made it work. It's sitting still, and one of the cars is in a rail yard or something over there. My other contribution, my 2 cubes, the problem with them is that they each had the strut on the front. I actually have one of them right here. It's detached now. That it's detachable is a good thing, really, because the problem with the struts is that they supported the landing pads above, and the landing pads above are not here. And so the top of the strut, actually, if you want to look back at Aragon for a second, it's not pretty, right? It's not meant to be visible because it was covered by a landing pad. And so it would have been kind of weird to have these sticking out with nothing there. What I wound up doing is, thankfully, because there were 4 struts in the Brickworld Chicago arrangement, I'd made a studio model to share with the other builders who built the other 2. And so from that, I was able to make a little insert. You can see it right here, right at the top. That's where the strut would have gone. It would have been like right like that. I call it the unstrut, which it just made the where the strut would have been into a flat wall. And then we did that to both of my cubes, and we had to modify the walkways a little bit to go over the top. It's about 2 plates higher, I think. But otherwise, then they fit right in. And this is actually what my original plan for these cubes was to begin with, before we made the struts and they became part of the dock infrastructure.
Fantastic work here. So it looks really great. I also love just kind of like the numbering there, and all the details you added in as well look great.
Yeah, I was really got into some of this, the decay and the concrete. And in this, I guess I got kind of more of my classic, futuristic sci-fi with the, very clean there, and the really decrepit-looking, decaying concrete on the other side. And yeah, it was really fun getting that, that decay look of Cyberpunk. It's taking my building kind of in a different direction, because I like pushing my own envelope a bit to, to explore new ideas.
Absolutely, great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that tops out the end of our conversation about new Hashima Sector 10. And it looks like we have a guest down here. If you could pan over to that. And helping us complete the last run to send off this beautiful 20-foot tower. Actually, it's 19 feet 10, 7/8 of an inch, but who's counting, I guess. So we're just going to toast to sports balls. Sports balls! Sports balls!
Amazing. Great work, everyone.
Thank you, Josh. I'd like to thank my mom and Base God, too. Have a good day. I want to make a corner that's set back that creates like an interesting space. It's about the edge of the